Welcome to the Unitarian Universalist Church in Eugene, where empowered by love, we transform ourselves and serve our world. Excuse me. My name is Linda Krenneke, and my pronouns are she and her. With me today is our Minister for Adult Faith Formation and Pastoral Care, coming from live from Nashville is Jennifer Hackett, collaborative pianist Suzanne Giordano, vocalists Chris Olson and Bob Sorentz, and working behind the scenes, technical communications coordinator Kat Johnson. We gather and worship to find meaning and to live more deeply. Worship creates connections within, among, and beyond us, calling us to our better selves, calling us to live with wisdom and compassion. Whoever you are, whomever you love, whatever your image of the holy, we're glad you're here. If you're visiting us today, we'd love to hear from you and invite you to fill out the visitor form as you feel called. And the link is being dropped into the chat now.
I have a few announcements for you today. Visitors, newcomers, and longtime members are all invited to participate in the Inquirer series. It's a part of our Faith Forward curriculum, which meets 7 p.m. on Monday evenings through March 7th. It's a series of 9 conversations that offer an in-depth introduction to our congregation and to Unitarian Universalism. You can find the Zoom link on the online UUCE calendar, and this week's conversation will be with Rev Jen. Bringing Values to End of Life Choices series begins this Thursday and will continue every Thursday through March 31st when we culminate in our 2nd annual Death Cafe. Join in at 7 o'clock for some great discussions and tips about dying well as a UU. The drop-off window for used phones for resettled refugees from Afghanistan is here at the church from 12 to 1 today. Today at 11:30 in the virtual social hall will be Challenging Racism, Come One, Come All. And I am live, and I am from Nashville, but I am here in Eugene today. And we now have outdoor space heaters. Today, I'll be sitting under one for a quick in-person hello if you want to. Today at the church between 2:30 and 3:30, you can drive by or pop out with your mask on and my mask on to say hello before I slip back across the country tomorrow. I will be here for a longer period of time in June when we hopefully will be able to gather together indoors en masse. Please know that today at 2:30 is a pop-up event. You didn't miss an announcement about it. This is the announcement about it. And it's really good to be here at the church, even if ever so briefly. Welcome.
Our chalice lighting words today are entitled Into the Circle by the Reverend Dr. David Breeden. We gather into this circle of care to dream, to envision, to embody and achieve the compassion we dream, the justice we envision, the dignity of each in an ever-growing circle of love and justice. And now let's say together the words of our mission, which affirm our shared purpose. Empowered by love, we transform ourselves and serve our world.
Welcome to worship today, a worship full of sticky words that we will endeavor to loosen together. When I was a brand new UU, the word worship was one that got me stuck. My minister shared with me that UUs had found and reclaimed an old English definition of the word worship that meant that which is worth doing, the containment vessel for that which has worth. Welcome to our worth. Proclaiming and exploring our values in community has worth, is worthy, is worthwhile, as are you. Welcome to our worth ship today. Let us sail onward together as we work to build a church where all are welcome to worship. Please join us in singing hymn number 1017, Building a New Way.
Our reading today is entitled From Ally to Advocate by Jonathan Kwong. Thought I was so smart till I didn't know the answer to why evil exists in the world. Thought I was so enlightened till I discovered comfort in darkness for a while. Thought I was so liberal till my good intentions produced the opposite results. Thought I was colorblind till my eyes began to see differences that should be honored. Thought I was an ally when what was called for was an advocate instead.
Thank you, Linda. She was reading the words of the Reverend Dr. Jonathan Kwong, a Filipino-American who also happens to be in charge of all UU candidates for ministry like me. I told you at the start of the service that when I first started going to UU Church for worship services on Sundays, it was the word worship that got me stuck. I couldn't really commit to that community or even really the religion until I worked it out. I kept picturing myself prostrate on a carpet, practicing obeisance. And I was trying to work out what God meant to me and what it meant to all of the people around me. And it was a big challenge for me. So I could barely cope with all of it. I couldn't absorb anything else about Unitarian Universalism until I could loosen that knot. So I asked the minister who shared with me that we had found that old English definition of the word worship, meaning that which is worth doing, the container for that which has worth. And she looked very satisfied, and that was the end of the discussion for her. As for me, I went home to my Oxford English Dictionary to check. Had a lot to reconcile about how this faith had used some words, and I needed to rearrange them in my brain. Our time together today will maybe help you with some stuck places, some sticky words. Today we begin our new month's theme of widening the circle, our new spiritual practice. For those of you unfamiliar, the term in our universe of widening the circle comes from a report published in February of 2020 entitled Widening the Circle of Concern. I believe it is one of the most important documents in Unitarian Universalism today. The document came to us from our Commission on Institutional Change after about 3 years of study, interviewing congregations, speaking to our Black, Indigenous, and other people of color, or BIPOC, for an acronym short for that phrase, and all of the learning about all of the ways in which we are living into our missions. And there were 3 that stood out where we weren't quite there yet. Unfortunately, this report was not immediately paid the attention it deserved, given that it launched a few weeks prior to the start of the pandemic, when our minds were understandably elsewhere, trying to figure out what was our new normal. But its work and its concepts shouldn't get left in the dust. Widening the Circle of Concern is available in book form, and it's free online in its entirety, including the audio versions. I'll slip that into the chat in a bit. So, being an excited dismantler of white supremacy culture and just generally a church nerd, I read that report when it first came out. I frankly didn't have much else going on in April of 2020, and I made lots of time for it. And so I read it and I was nodding along to a lot of it and all of the pieces where it says we are so proud to be a liberal faith and that we cannot become complacent or think that we solved all of our civil rights issues in the 60s when the issues are still throughout the world and our movement and ourselves. And I learned that generally those three groups who still aren't quite as included in our circle, that it's not quite wide enough, are our BIPOC folks, our transgender folks, and our community members with disabilities. And all of these things rang true for me. And I thought, yes, we can and we should do more so that people who identify in these areas are feeling more fully welcomed. And I kept reading and it felt like I could really get behind the whole report until I read this one line. Our time as a haven or a social club for those disaffected by other religions has passed. Oof. Now, first of all, like many of you, I came to UU disaffected by another religion. And I found entry into this faith to be salvific. A community of people whose values were the same as my own. A place where we can do communal reciting and I don't have to change half of the words to make them fit my own beliefs. This did not feel like a social club. It felt like sanctuary. But it was the only thing in the whole report that kind of caught me up. The report goes on to say, as a religious institution and not a social club, we are bound in covenant to a set of beliefs and aspirations. Our inclusive, pluralistic principles allow individuals to find their own paths to truth within our Unitarian Universalist frame. Yet individuals do not see that our faith community is held together by a set of common communal values. So to be clear, we are a religion. Religion can be one of our UU sticky words, but we are a religion, and a religion is inherently different than a social club. We have a long history that dates back around 2,000 years. And in all of those spaces throughout time, we have been a religion, including now. Religion's root word is legare, to bind or connect. To connect to one another and indeed to all of the web of life around us. To bind up our futures together. To understand that we are responsible to one another, that is a hearty promise. Heartier than a social club. We are a religion practicing right relationship, leaning into that hard work so that we can build the beloved community here on earth. This happened here in 2020 when this church brought in Alex Capitan, a UU leader, who helped this community begin to broaden its understanding first of trans culture, and then helped us to form the words surrounding the affirmation of the dignity of all people, which are the banner words at the top of our website, and the banner words for who we are as a church community. We are a collective working hard at doing and practicing and valuing spiritual practices. We are engaging in activism, stated in our mission as serving our world. We are doing more than just finding our own people and calling it a day. This is one of the reasons that we ask people to continually enter a new small group connection circle every year, so that we can meet and become all of the beloved community with all of us included, all of us known, all of us tended. It is my prayer that each of you who wishes to be seen and known and part of this community feels that you are. If you don't yet, please reach out to me or Rev Jen for a conversation, and we will help you get plugged into the right group, the right niche, the right corner of UUCE that is just right for you. And that prayer reminds me to talk about prayer. This is one of our words that we get very dancy around. When people are sick or feeling down or feeling hurt, we want to tell them that we will be there for them. We are actively seeking a word to replace the word pray. And we wind up saying things like, I'm sending you good vibes and I'm keeping you in mind, which are both very nice. But I think we've gotten the word pray tangled up with praying to something specific. And that tangles us all up as we consider what to define as holy. Pray is a sticky word for UUs. I want to invite you to consider reclaiming the word prayer and just getting the prayers out there. Become a person whose life is statistically better due to the action of praying, letting the stickiness surrounding this word loosen. Consider with me the best description of prayer that came from a novel I read called The Mothers by Britt Bennett. Now, many of us have been reading novels this year in our Novel Insights group as a method of seeing what we can learn about dismantling white supremacy culture using the fictional stories created to both entertain and possibly also to educate ourselves. And this particular book follows a group of women whose lives are centered at their church. They meet at church daily to pray for their community. Some folks at the church call them the mothers, and others call them the prayer warriors. Here are some excerpts from the passage on what it means to them to pray. We don't think of ourselves as prayer warriors. Prayer is more delicate than battle, especially intercessory prayer. More than just a notion, taking up the burdens of someone else, often someone you don't even know. Close your eyes and listen to a request. Then you have to slip inside their body. You are Tracy Robinson burning for whiskey. You are Cindy Harris's husband searching your wife's phone. You are Earl Vernon washing dirty knots out of your strung out daughter's hair. If you don't become them, even for a second, your prayer is nothing but words. If someone told me that they were praying for me so deeply that they tried to understand my feelings, my pain, and my heart, I would know they are part of my beloved community. Yes, prayer is the beloved community in action. Can we try it on for size? Try closing our eyes, understanding someone's request or their need or their pain, and actively praying that it change. Not necessarily praying to someone, but praying for someone, for someone's. Let me close today with my prayer for this church in the form of a blessing. May everyone here feel loved today. May everyone here feel included today. May everyone here feel belonging today. May you know that this may be your church home today. May everyone here open the circle a little wider and make room for one more person, especially those who may be different from you in one way or another. Blessed be, amen, may it be so.
We extinguish this flame, but not the light of truth, the warmth of community, or the fire of commitment. These we carry in our hearts until we are together again.
May the prayers of our heart listen to the spirit of life that calls to us, asking us to ever widen the circle of inclusion and full participation in this religion, this church for all. This worship is ended. Go in peace, go in love.